When did your parents finally realize they messed up by spoiling your sibling?
I have a younger brother, about 6 years younger than me, and he was treated like royalty by my parents because he was diagnosed with high-functioning autism when he was 4. Apart from that, he acts pretty much like a normal kid, but he's spoiled beyond belief. He learned pretty early that he could use his special status to get whatever he wanted, and by whatever, I mean nearly everything. If I had something, he had to have the same, so we ended up with 2 of nearly everything, except for stuff we shared. And anything I didn't have that he did, he would make sure to rub it in my face.
When I was 11, I asked my parents for a 3DS for my 12th birthday, and they got me one.
But they told me I had to let my brother use it whenever he wanted, or they'd take it away.
So, that happened a lot.
One time, my aunt saw my parents literally take the 3DS out of my hands to give to him, and she lost it on them for playing favorites so blatantly. They gave it back to me immediately but somehow blamed me for the whole thing.
After my aunt left, they never made me share it with him again.
But a few days later, they bought my brother his own 3DS as a surprise gift. And it wasn't just my birthday, my brother had a habit of throwing tantrums if he wasn't the center of attention at family events.
He'd complain if he wasn't getting presents or didn't get to blow out the candles on the cake.
My parents quickly learned that enabling him at parties didn't work, and they even got kicked out of a few for trying. As a result, other kids at school started ignoring him when it came to birthday invites. My birthdays, though, were one of the few times I could actually have the attention on me, but it never lasted. My parents made my life revolve around my brother. The year before the birthday I'm talking about, my parents spent most of my 13th birthday focusing on him. They even asked me if I'd let him blow out my candles because he was upset. I said no, I wanted to blow them out myself. At first, they called me a spoiled brat, but my aunt stepped in again and ripped them a new one for treating me like that. She pointed out that my brother got nearly everything just because he was autistic. The adults at the party all backed my aunt up, except my brother, who was still pouting that he wasn't getting his way. In a fit of rage, he tried to spit on my cake, but my aunt stopped him just in time. She yelled at him until he ran crying to my mom. After that, my parents got some serious heat from the other guests and promised never to ask me to let my brother blow out my candles again.
But the rest of the party? They just went through the motions. My aunt ended up running the show from that point on.
A couple of weeks before my birthday the next year, my parents told me that I'd still get a few presents and a small cake, but they were canceling the party to avoid another meltdown from my brother.
I couldn't believe it.
I told them I was hurt, and they just shrugged it off. So, the next week, I started telling everyone, my friends, my teachers, even the school counselor, what was going on. Everyone was shocked by how my parents were treating me. The vice principal even reached out to me online to offer support. Word got back to my parents, and they grounded me for talking to so many people.
But I didn't stop.
I started telling everyone at school that I was grounded for being upset, and that made things worse. A bunch of parents reached out to my folks, telling them they were out of line. Suddenly, I was ungrounded, but there was no apology yet. My dad just walked into my room one day, arms crossed, told me I was ungrounded, and then left.
That was it. I honestly thought my birthday party was still cancelled since no one said anything about it.
My brother found the whole thing funny and teased me about not being able to celebrate. But, by the end of the 2 weeks, my parents surprised me with a party at my favorite restaurant. They claimed it was their plan all along, but I knew that wasn't true. From what I could tell, everyone was really upset with them for what they'd done, and it showed in how they interacted with my parents. So, they threw the surprise party to try and salvage what little reputation they had left, but I'm pretty sure they spent a lot of money to make it happen. It was a great night, though. I had dinner with all my friends, the restaurant even had an arcade, and I got the PS4 I'd been wanting. It was clear everything had been planned and bought last minute. My dad had this look on his face that my aunt joked made him look like a moth had flown out of his wallet. Of course, my brother caused a scene about me getting the party. When he tried to push my cake off the table, my parents finally stepped in. For the first time since he was a toddler, my brother got a timeout, and my mom stayed with him to make sure he didn't do anything else. He kept trying to run toward the cake with a stack of presents, but there was always someone watching him. Even my dad kept guard. My mom ended up taking him to a nearby McDonald's to play in their play area. I later heard she spent over an hour trying to get him to leave the play structure, and he only came out because he needed to use the bathroom. He tried to run back in immediately. After that, my parents never tried to cancel my birthday again while I was living with them. But, for the next 4 years, they didn't put much effort into my parties. It was usually a local pizza place, a plain cake with no name on it, and no gifts. I know it sounds spoiled, but it did kind of bother me that I never got a cake with my name on it again. Every year, my aunt would call them out on it, and every year, they'd claim they just forgot to get it decorated. I'm pretty sure the reason my name never went on a cake again was because my brother wouldn't eat any cake that had someone else's name on it, and they couldn't risk putting his name on my cake. But, honestly, I didn't care much about that anymore. The fact that I even had a day that was all about me instead of my brother was enough, especially since everything else always revolved around him. During each of my remaining birthday parties while I lived at home, my brother would throw a fit, and my mom would take him somewhere else to calm him down. I still had to share my PS4 with him, but it was still mine. I took it with me when I moved out at 18. My brother didn't take that well and threw a huge tantrum. To make it up to him, my parents went out and bought him his own PS4. When I moved out, my parents finally had to deal with the consequences of raising my brother the way they did, now that I wasn't around to help them. For his 14th birthday, he had a meltdown because they didn't get him a PS5. He ended up causing hundreds, maybe even thousands, of dollars in damage during his tantrum. The last time I saw my parents, they looked totally checked out. My aunt told me that they had confided in her, saying they wished they could send him to military or boarding school because they couldn't handle him anymore. But, of course, they can't afford it. Honestly, I couldn't help but find it a bit ironic.